did the Jacksonville Jaguars get a lot of bargains during their stopping? Where do the Cowboys stand during the free agency season? And does the return of the GOAT mean a guaranteed NFC championship for the Buccaneers? Well, we're going to find out those questions, answers to those questions, and more, if we have got tons to talk about today. It is a special edition of Fantasy Football Fever starting right now.
15 seconds to air. Stand by, all cameras.
Ready with slow motion and isolated cameras.
Stand by, videotape, and roll tape.
And tape is rolling in less than 5, in 3, 2, 1.
Take tape.
To another edition of Fantasy Football Fever. It's been a little while since we've gotten together, but a new league year started just last week, and this whole NFL has just been sticking up like a good California earthquake. And I've got a couple of minds to kind of help me along with all these hot topics we got dealing with, starting with the one known John Flynn.
Hello, Tim. How's it going? How was your off season?
As far as the Cowboys are concerned, a little bit lower than high. But we'll get to that here in a little while. And once again, I've got my good buddy David Heller.
Hello again, Peter Jennings at ABC News headquarters in New York. Our Cowboy Powers continues and will continue for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, of course. Well, as I mentioned, folks, the new league year started last week, and the free agency period started at that time as well. And we have got so many pickups, we got so many trades, we got so many signings, so many other issues to take care of. So this is basically a whole show full of hot topics. These topics are higher than hell, I'll tell you right now. So right now, we're going to go to some very interesting things that happened in the last couple of weeks. Four notable quarterbacks up this time. First of all, the Seattle Seahawks have traded Russell Wilson to the Denver Broncos. So, Flynn, what do you see on that?
I think this makes the Denver Broncos one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the AFC. And if you watch the Denver Broncos and how they've played the last couple of seasons, they have an excellent roster already, and it was just a matter of upgrading at the quarterback position, which has been a struggle for the franchise since Peyton Manning retired back in 2016. That they went for Trevor Siemian and they let Brock Osweiler go. They brought in Drew Lock. They drafted him. They thought he was going to be a sneaky steal, but that didn't pan out. Drew Lock actually was sent to Seattle in the subsequent Russell Wilson trade, along with a huge package of draft picks, including multiple first-round picks for the future, including Denver's first-round pick this year. So I think that the way the Broncos are constructed, and the Broncos defense was actually the top 5 in the NFL last year when you look at it statistically, and they played well even with Von Miller and without Von Miller. They even rather overlooked, and they gave teams like Cincinnati and Kansas City all the run for their money. Cincinnati barely beat them. Kansas City barely beat them that week 18. That Saturday night doubleheader on ESPN. It was a 28-24 game, but now the Broncos have a new head coach. They have a new quarterback, and when you bring those two together, so the results for quarterbacks who have the coach and quarterback together, throughout the last 45 years, almost half of the Super Bowl winning head coach quarterback combinations came together the same year, and that's exactly what happened with the Denver Broncos. I think the Broncos are in a great spot to compete in 2022.
All right, Dave, you got an opinion on that one?
Oh, you know, a lot of trades, one as recently as yesterday, Tyreek Who would have thought that?
And I think we're going to get to that, but in terms of what we're going to start all the way back at the beginning with Russell Wilson getting traded to Denver, David.
Yeah. Well, looking at the AFC West, I don't want to face anybody in the AFC West next season. No way. You got Mahomes, now Wilson, Carr, and Herbert. I would not want to bring in my head. What? I think I mentioned at the end of the last season. The Broncos one franchise TV away from a Super Bowl run. They got so if I were the AFC, and honestly what happened, but watch out.
Yeah, that's all I gotta say. Watch out, because Denver could be looking pretty good, and like Flynn said, they haven't improved over the last 3 years. So they could continue with the Chiefs for the AFC West. Yeah. Another quarterback trade. Carson Wentz traded from the Indianapolis Colts to the Washington Commanders. He's back in the NFC East. With a new team and new look. So, Flynn, does this make sense?
I'd say this makes absolutely no sense for the Washington Commanders, because when you think about all the other quarterbacks that have been traded across the NFL, considering Matt Ryan got traded from Atlanta to Indianapolis for only a third-round pick, that was an easiest first guess, and Carson Wentz doesn't scream playoffs by any means, even though the NFC is quite weak compared to the AFC, but we saw Carson Wentz unable to embrace his leadership role with Indianapolis, and I mean his numbers last season with Indianapolis were solid. I'll give him that the touchdown interception rate was very, very good, but. So, in the most important game of the season, against the worst team in the NFL, that's when he faltered when it mattered the most, and when teams make Carson Wentz win the game with his arm, it doesn't pan out well for his team. So. And look, I think this is going to be another losing season for Washington, and I think Ron Rivera, with everything going on with him and the way he's trying to change the culture, but all the dysfunction in the organization with Dan Snyder and the things that have been going on non-football related. Ron Rivera is going to be fired if Washington does not make the playoffs this season. I think the Washington made this trade thinking that they were gonna try and make a push to make the playoffs, but when you think about losing Brandon Sheriff in free agency, when you think about Washington's defense, which was highly touted in 2020, and it was atrocious in 2021. So Washington's defense is going to have to be close to 2020 form in 2022 if they're going to contend, and then have Carson Wentz play turnover-free football for much of the season, and we'll get to the Colts' perspective of this trade in a little bit, but I do not understand this at all for Washington. When you first of all had quarterbacks like Matt Ryan and Mitchell Trubisky available. And look, Trubisky's been taking a lot of knack, but Trubisky would have been an upgrade over Taylor Heineke. He would have been at that. But there also were quarterbacks available in the draft especially when you think of Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett after the pro days they had. This makes Washington even more clueless, and they have no idea what on earth they're doing, and it's probably going to take Dan Snyder to sell the team in order for the Commanders fans to have any real hope.
Yeah. To
Taylor
what happened with U.S. Soccer years ago. What are the Commanders? What are they doing? What are they doing? That play, for the life of me, I don't understand that particular play, and I believe the Colts definitely went on that play. Because from the Colts perspective, number one, they're trying to, turn things around, and honestly, I get Jim Irsay's perspective at the end of the season, after they were really well when they lost to the worst team in the NFL against the Jaguars, that they need to win that season, or there are going to be bigger changes, and obviously, they're starting out by getting rid of Carson Wentz, but to Washington did, they're just competent. And I think Flynn, the only hope that the Commanders are going to have any hope is if the defense does continue. And I don't know if that's going to turn soon, by the way.
Looks like as Flynn said, I'm predicting another losing season for the Commanders. Now, let's mention Carson left the Colts. Now, the aforementioned Matt Ryan let go by the Falcons, picked up by the Colts. So on that, Flynn.
So I think this Matt Ryan is an upgrade over Carson Wentz. Matt Ryan is single-handedly responsible was the reason the Falcons were a relevant franchise for 10 to 15 years. And Matt Ryan was the epitome of class. He was tough. He was clutch. But it certainly wasn't his fault, though, that they blew that lead in the Super Bowl 28-3. So you factor in the defense not playing well down the stretch and Kyle Shanahan's play calling down the stretch of that game. If that was the case, if either one of those things didn't happen, Matt Ryan would have been a regular season MVP and a Super Bowl MVP in the same season. The last player to do that was Kurt Warner back in 1999. So that was baffling, and his head coaches have been Mike Smith, Dan Quinn, and one year of Arthur Smith after they traded Julio Jones to Tennessee and missing Calvin Ridley for much of the season. So I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to be the worst team in the NFC next year. I think the Falcons are going to be a 2-3 win team next season. So with the roster they have now, they did sign Marcus Mariota to be a bridge quarterback for the future. So the Falcons are going to pick their next franchise quarterback either in this year's draft or in next year's draft to replace Matt Ryan. So I think that's the Falcons thing there. And also, by the way, the dead cap hit the Falcons are taking on Matt Ryan is over $40 million. So that means it's $40 million the Falcons cannot use against the salary cap, based on the guaranteed contract that was part of the contract and when the two sides last negotiated a few years ago. So that's something to be considered for that. But now on the flip side, what an upgrade by the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Chris Ballard is an outstanding general manager, and he put together he's put together a playoff worthy roster over the last couple of seasons. When you think about the offensive line, drafting Quentin Nelson, drafting Darius Leonard in the third round in 2018, he's blossomed into one of the league's best linebackers. The defensive line is strong. Where they bringing in DeForest Buckner a couple of years ago, so they have an obviously. So they waited for the second round to draft Jonathan Taylor, and he had the incredible season last year. So Chris Ballard knew what he was doing, but it took 2 weeks for everybody to understand why the Colts did what they did with Washington. Now it made no sense at the beginning because who the hell was the Colts quarterback going to be? But the fact that they only had to give up a third round pick for Matt Ryan, it's because everybody knew the Falcons had to trade Matt Ryan with the Falcons being in the running for Deshaun Watson. I think the Colts did really well here, and I think right now I'm not screaming Super Bowl. I think Buffalo. I think there are several teams in the conference better than Indianapolis, but do I think that puts them over the top over Tennessee with Tannehill and Henry? I would think so, given the structure of the AFC and the AFC South.
Now, I have a question for you, Flynn. Do you think that the Falcons and the Washington Commanders, we just talked about a little while ago, do you believe they're going to be the two worst teams in the NFC this season?
I think it's gonna. I think the Falcons and then the Seahawks, because with Seattle's schedule, it's gonna be insane because Seattle has to play everybody in their division. Their division is scheduled to play the AFC West. Everybody in there, so Carr, Mahomes, Wilson, Herbert. So Seattle plays all of them next year. And so the Seahawks are either gonna have Drew Lock as the starting quarterback, or some guy named Colin Kaepernick as the quarterback.
But what I would think is the NFC specifically, not the NFL overall.
I would argue that the Falcons and the Seahawks in terms of the NFC because of the schedules, the lack of talent. The Seahawks are probably going to have to trade DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I think DK Metcalf would be perfect for Green Bay after Devontae Adams got traded to the Raiders, and I think Tyler Lockett would be great for Kansas City after Tyreek Hill was traded to Miami yesterday. So again, Seattle does have some a little bit of leverage here when it comes to unloading those two players, and I think both of them could bring back a first round pick, and both Green Bay and Kansas City have 2 first round picks because of the trades they made. So I think right now I'd see Atlanta and Seattle as the 2 worst teams in the NFC going into the season.
So then, where do you think the Washington Commanders sit in terms of the worst teams in the NFL overall?
I think they're bottom half. I don't think they're bottom 5 though. They're not going to be as bad because remember they still have Chase Young, they still have Montez Sweat, and they have Carson Wentz over Mariota. And as much as we blasted Wentz, I'd take him over Mariota and Locke. So I think. Yeah, so I think that needs to be considered on that front.
Yeah, I agree with the Falcons. Let's be honest. At most, we're going to probably win 2, 3, maybe 4 games next season. Colts, I don't want to trade. I'm Matt Ryan, and with that duo of Ryan and Jonathan Taylor. Woo!
Oh, boy.
enough for the Colts to win the AFC South that season. But I'm definitely going to agree with Flynn that there's going to be several teams, probably all the AFC West teams in particular, that are going to be ahead of the Indianapolis Colts in terms of who's going to be contending for the Super Bowl.
And then you also have to think about the offensive line. I think the Colts have one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League, and that's what enabled Jonathan Taylor to have so much success the last couple of seasons. And the Colts and Frank Reich unlocked his potential during the second half of the 2020 season. Of course, he had that big game against the Raiders in Vegas 2 years ago that basically put the Colts in the playoffs, and then. Then of course being everybody's winning everybody the fantasy championships last season with running for over 1,800 yards during the season and all of that. But if I'm the Colts, I should be thrilled. So, but I do think the Colts need a wide receiver too. I think that they need to be in on Lockett and Metcalf as well. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Do you think that Colts getting either one of those wide receivers might put them, in the contention to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl next season?
No, but because this is a win now team, you want to do everything in your power to try to win now, and I think that's what the Colts are trying to do. But I am going to be interested though in how the Colts defense responds in 2022, because remember, Matt Eberflus is now no longer the defensive coordinator; he's now the head coach of the Colts. So Gus Bradley is going to be running the defense. But I think for a Falcons perspective, in terms of the history of the franchise, that remember Tim when the Falcons had Bobby Petrino for that one season where he quit mid-season, and I want to see if Tim remembers that, but I think Tim's Mike is frozen. But and this was all after the Michael Vick saga with him, with his behavior over the dogs. So the Falcons now are back to where they were before Matt Ryan, and I think it's going to be a long year for the Atlanta Falcons. Also considering that Calvin Ridley has been was announced that he's suspended for a full year because of illegal gambling in Florida, illegal for an NFL player, and I think the NFL did the right thing for suspending him for the whole season because that goes completely against the grain here for the NFL. So it seems like Tim is no longer his mic has some issues. So I think we should go on to the one trade that Tim didn't mention yet, and I want to see. There have been like a lot of opinions on this, and I want to hear your opinion on this too. So what do you think about Deshaun Watson going to the Cleveland Browns?
By the way, before I mention about Watson, Tim said carry on with the show until he gets back. So
all right.
That's what he said. Now, as far as Watson going to the Browns, well, I think that basically means that Baker Mayfield's going to be traded because, we're going to have Watson competing against Mayfield for the job. That's probably not going to go over too well. So, I do expect that Watson will become the starter. Mayfield will be playing elsewhere. It's a great trade, however, the Browns, whether that even puts them in the running for the playoffs, I don't know about that. But what I do know is Baker will certainly be traded. I don't know where, but certainly be traded.
I don't agree with that notion, David, because now Jason Licht, the outstanding general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, was on Sirius XM yesterday with popular personality Adam Shine, and listen, he actually left the door open for Tampa to trade for Baker Mayfield to be the backup because the diehard Bucs fans, meaning the ones that were there before Tom Brady went to Tampa, know that Blaine Gabbert doesn't win you football games, only Brady does. But the fact that there were reports that came out that the Carolina Panthers, mind you, the Panthers have been in quarterback hell, and the front office isn't doing Matt Rule any favors. The fact that the Panthers are not interested in Baker Mayfield tells you everything you need to know about Baker Mayfield. It's because Baker Mayfield is the combination of arrogance and ignorance. And he was never worthy of the first overall pick in the 2018 draft. That Josh Allen was in the same draft class, Sam Darnold was in the same draft class, and Lamar Jackson was in the same draft class. And the fact that the Cleveland Browns selected Baker Mayfield over them, I will never get over it. I thought it was the wackiest decision that the Browns did. Now, this trade for Deshaun Watson for the Cleveland Browns, first of all, it's an upgrade. So, and one thing about Baker Mayfield, it's more likely to me that Baker Mayfield actually gets released before rather than he gets traded. So that means the Browns are probably going to get nothing back in return for Baker Mayfield, and I never would have picked up the 5th-year option for Baker Mayfield anyway. So, but now a new era, Deshaun Watson, and listen, the fact that it's the Cleveland Browns that pulled the trigger to trade for Deshaun Watson, and mind you, there were 4 teams in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes: the Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, the Saints, and the Cleveland Browns. The Saints had the backup plan by bringing back Jameis Winston, so that there's that. The Falcons have Mariota, who actually worked with Arthur Smith in Tennessee for a couple of years. But I think that might tell you something. Now, so the way the Browns structured the contract for Deshaun Watson, so it was designed assuming that the NFL is going to suspend Deshaun Watson to start the season because of those things. Remember, Ben Roethlisberger in 2010 had a similar situation. But Roethlisberger was originally suspended for 6 games, but that suspension got reduced to 4 games. So the way the Browns structured that contract is where things stand on that one. But it is the type of move that I think screams playoffs for the Browns, and then you also pair it out with the Browns trading for Amari Cooper. So I think Amari Cooper is an upgrade over what they had at the end of last season. So there is that. There has actually been some conversation about Odell Beckham Jr. potentially going back to Cleveland if Baker Mayfield is no longer on the team, because OBJ clearly saw Baker Mayfield as the issue with the team, and absolutely right he was. But to me, it's more likely than not that Odell Beckham winds up back with the Rams instead of signing with the Cleveland Browns. So I think through all those different sorts here, I think it is noteworthy that it's the Cleveland Browns, and when you factor in what the Browns have, offensive line, defense, and of course the league's best running back duo with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, I think that who can catch passes out of the backfield to help out Deshaun Watson. Now, so I don't. Austin Hooper is no longer in Cleveland because he was a salary cap casualty in Cleveland. So I think that needs to be said on that front, But Deshaun Watson, when it's available, he is one of the 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in the National Football League, and he's entering the prime of his career. He's only, I think he's only in his mid to late 20s, so he's going to be. He has a lot of gas left in the tank. So I think Deshaun Watson going to Cleveland, I think from a football perspective makes a lot of sense. But there is the big risk of what happens in the court in the judicial court of public opinion. Now there was more good news for Deshaun Watson because there was another grand jury rejected the charges that were against Deshaun Watson based on the sexual assault allegations. So that's certainly good news. But look, I think the way Deshaun Watson goes about this, I think he if he focuses on football and we're gonna get a lot of questions about this in his introductory press conference tomorrow afternoon. So how he's going to handle having this dark cloud hovering over him. So I think that's where we have with Deshaun Watson. As Irene has entered the chat, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I wanted to starting an offense. So I just see where the echo went from. Okay, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
I found it. Okay. So I'm gonna find just want to go over some announcements. There's nothing much happening now with football, but yeah, I mean I do have some announcements. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So, okay. The unprecedented rate of improvement stimulated in helmet industry. New standard set for top performing helmet models worn by NFL players. They're conducting testing on helmet laboratory. So the NFLPA is they're trying. Like I mentioned this last year. Also, they're trying to improve the safety for helmets. And I'm a very big fan of this because this will significantly reduce head injury upon impact. Head injury. That's what I said. Yeah, I did. I said head injuries upon impact on the on when they, you know what I'm saying, for football, and this is very good. And they're doing laboratory testing. You can see on the chart as well. So that's beautiful. And then on there's going to be a virtual reality NFL license game, I believe, coming to MetaQuest and some Sony PlayStation VR devices. I was actually seeing this on my PlayStation the other day, and I'm very excited about this coming out because I like when new games come out like this. Like we get sick of Madden after a while. We want some innovation here. So this is really good. I mean, because especially with a VR headset, this will be beautiful. They said hopefully it'll be out in time before the new season starts. I just wanted to show an article about it as well. Yeah, they just started, like they're really getting into it now. Here's a quick video about that. I saw it I pre-ordered it on my headset. It's for sure it's coming. Yeah. That's the concept. So I think that's like the teaser commercial for it. It's for sure it's coming. I hope it also comes out on the Oculus because that would be wonderful. If not, that's okay too, because I also have a PlayStation headset that it'll work with. With my PS5, that'll be really beautiful. They have the virtual reality NFL license game. They have NFL Network's Path to Draft is coming out on May 6th. Okay, it'll premiere April 4th, but it airs through May 6th. You have the mock draft, the 50 perspectives, Bucky Brooks. This will be a very good tool to use. I think I came in like third or fourth place for fantasy football, which was good. Um, then there was a statement also by Roger Goodell on the passing of John Clayton. Fisk University, a student ended up winning the HBCU battle. And then, of course, you probably already know this. There is a fire happening at the
High
I saw that in my news. The NFL news is on that as of now, but we'll keep our eye open on that. I'm ready for movies and like moving on. Definitely ready on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think Irene came on at the perfect time because we've been talking about a lot of quarterback news over the last a couple of weeks, and we've been looking at quarterbacks that have moved from different teams. We talked about Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson and all of that, but one topic we have not talked about yet is the return of Tom Brady to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is wild when you think about that, because but listen. I think Tampa's a Super Bowl team this year. I don't know if the NFC is that.
Hating from the sideline, a flag on the play, like Julio with them.
Absolutely, I'm very excited to be back.
And also contemporary, but one interesting statistic I found out from ESPN was it just seems like that on the those are the years that Tom Brady actually won the Super Bowl.
I think especially given that Tampa was able to bring back Chris Godwin on a long-term contract, that the Tampa initially put the franchise tag on Chris Godwin, but Jason Light deserves a lot of credit for hammering out an extension with Chris Godwin, because he was if Chris Godwin was on the field in the playoffs on Divisional Sunday, because he got hurt at the end of toward the end of the regular season. If Chris Godwin was available for that game against the Rams, there was a very good chance Tampa Bay would have won that game. So it's because they had to rely. And now Brady's always been pretty good at creating wide receivers, and something I'll bring up later on with Patrick Mahomes in the wake of the Tyreek Hill trade. But I think when you have Tampa with Brady and bringing back Leonard Fournette, and they're probably going to bring back Rob Gronkowski out of retirement again. So that's probably going to happen. He's probably going to wind up back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think from 1 to 53 now, Tampa will have to address the safety position in the draft. I think they are a little bit weaker on the offensive line than they were last year. But given that every team has its flaws, and given how hard it is to repeat as the Super Bowl champion, so I think Tampa has a great chance to go to the Super Bowl this year. Given that Dallas is weaker, Green Bay is weaker, I think San Francisco will offset LA enough to allow Tampa to be the 1 seed in the NFC, which I think is a big deal when it comes to Tom Brady. So we have all of that. But it's going to be all sorts of fun if you are a fan of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2022.
Yeah. And also thinking maybe interesting stuff. I know about Panthers not being interested in Baker Mayfield a little often. I also think that it's a sign that it seems like that David Tamper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, he seems to be incompetent. You know?
I see some very serious competition for Madden 22 because there's a NFL VR game coming out. This is going to present a very big competition to them. I could already see it, and that, I'm a very big player of Madden for many years. It's very unfortunate, he passed away and everything, and hopefully they'll make him the cover of the 2023 one. I've been still playing around with the 2022 one. Oh, just so you guys know, if you have Amazon Prime and you have Origin, you can get Madden 22 for free right now. They are giving product codes out for free for that, which is beautiful for people, that want to enjoy Madden right now. But, I really think that this will bring some competition because when you have the VR headset on, it's like you're actually throwing the football on your headset, and that's like the best experience in the world. Like, I love like the feeling of actually being there on my headset, and this is really gonna revolutionize, gaming for the football. But hopefully they'll still have Madden 23 come out. Let me see what the release date. I think the release date for it might be August, if I'm not mistaken. But let me see. August 19th. It's looking like for it. I have it on pre-order. So for sure it's coming out. Hopefully they're predicting. Let me see what they think Cup is going to be on the front cover of it. They'll have Ultimate Team again on it. I'm looking forward to. Yeah, they should really. I've been signing some petitions and everything. They should really put John Madden on the cover of that. Just honor him, honor his legacy, please, because make him the front cover of it this year. Because we really want to see him honored. Because that's his game. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully they'll do that. If not, then maybe the Rams will be on there. But I would really prefer John Madden this year to be on the cover of that. That's just my opinion. Yeah.
And I think given the history of football and how generations of football fans associated themselves with John Madden, and John Madden calling the game of the week on CBS and on Fox for so many years, then basically all four major networks. I think this would be an appropriate year to put John Madden on the cover because it was his idea, and it's why football is now mainstream because of him being the innovator and him emphasizing things that we've never noticed before in the NFL. That there wasn't much emphasis on the offensive line or the defensive lines until Madden came along. So I think a lot needs to be said about those things. So I do want you to, because I know you had we're trying to scroll on before the current odds for the Super Bowl. I know you were Irene, you were scrolling through that before, so I want to see what Vegas says for right now for the Super Bowl odds. It's a big
Tampa Bay is going to make a big comeback. And I agree with them. Even the Buffalo Bills, Tampa Bay, Chiefs, Rams. It looks like big thing with the Bills versus the Bucks. It looks like that right now.
Yeah.
This was crazy what happened with the Super Bowl. With the Rams panned out. Nobody ever thought that was going to happen. And David will tell you. I love his opinion about the Rams thing because he said it was he said that the Bengals was like a Cinderella story or something like that. It was just mind-blowing. I would never think that. I didn't see that combo coming. something must have happened, or I don't know how it went that way. So I don't think it's gonna happen like that again. I think it was very strange. It was like maybe it was a toss-up or something. It just doesn't make any sense how the team out like that. It's just maybe they had like a really good player on them that made it that way. Maybe that could be the case. You know what I'm saying? But I don't. If I was rooting for the Bengals, I wasn't really for the Rams because I'm not a fan of the Dolphins. Like I was rooting for both teams. But if I had to pick one, I was for the Bengals. I was rooting for. I really, if the Bills go against the Bucs, I'm still gonna go for the Bucs, but I wouldn't be rooting for the Bills. You know, deep down, the Bucs, the Patriots, the Dolphins, and you know,
I do want to make one thing about Cincinnati, about their run to the Super Bowl. I think a lot of what you see revolves around culture, and there could be that one special type of player that completely changed the whole culture, and that player for Cincinnati was Joe Burrow, because without Joe Burrow last year, because Burrow tore his ACL in the second half of the 2020 season, there were a lot of questions going into last season about Joe Burrow's health and him actually being able to ever possibly revert to his old self, and he certainly did that with the additions of Jamar Chase, his college teammate. They already had a team chemistry going on with Cincinnati. So and Joe Burrow was able to find a way to stay cool and be tough and clutch in big situations, and that they overcame a 21-3 deficit to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, which is something I did not see coming. So, but the offensive line, they were a physically challenged team unit all year, and the offensive line gave up 7 sacks to the Super Bowl. And there was actually the last play of the game. I don't know if you remember this, Irene, but Jamar Chase, the Bengals' best receiver, was wide open on that last play, but because the Bengals couldn't block for him on the offensive line.
That's the thing. I believe it. You know what I'm saying? I don't follow all of them.
Yeah.
I just saw them winning like this. This was not what I didn't get comfortable betting on a game like that. So I don't really even team well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not even better. That usually felt comfortable. We were like, this is not a safe thing to be betting on. We don't really know that well. You had to, people were taking the Rams. It looked favorable for the Bengals. You thought if the Bengals win, you win with more money. But if you bet for Rams, it's a crapshoot. You know who's going to win, and that's not good for anybody. I passed on that game. I didn't bet on the game. I don't know well. Let's understand what I'm talking about. I bet on this. So, it's not favorable either way. How it's getting up. If I did bet on it, I would go with the Bengals, but I was a little scared because you just don't know the team well. That's what do you do with them? But I think the Bengals would have had it if they would have really done better. It was tiebreaker. David said if the Bengals was how that turned out. Like anything saying I'm on board with it. It was honestly, I don't even know what to say about that game. I really think should have won, but it didn't happen that way. I don't know what happened with that. It's crazy.
Yeah, and that's why we do this podcast. That's why I do my own personal podcast. So this way, the casual fans actually learn what's actually going on. So David offers analysis. I offer analysis on this podcast, which is something we've been doing all season. So our ability to recognize patterns within games and recognize each team's strengths and weaknesses. That's what enables us to actually come up with sound opinions. Now, if you're looking at if you're thinking Buffalo Tampa for the Super Bowl, I think that's the matchup I would actually pick if the season were to end today, because I think Buffalo. The Bills actually signed Von Miller, the superstar linebacker who played a huge role in the Rams' Super Bowl victory last month. So I think that was a thing Buffalo needed that they didn't have last year. But right now, David, if the season were to start today, which it doesn't, because there's still 6 months to go before the season starts, my Super Bowl pick right now would be Buffalo Tampa. So I wonder what yours would be, David, if the season started today.
My Super Bowl pick would probably be Denver and Tampa Bay with the Bucks and Tom Brady. Finally going out in late glory and retiring with another Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, because I originally had Denver as the Super Bowl favorite. I was thinking this was the move that brings Denver to the Super Bowl, given the talent Russell Wilson had with Seattle compared to what he has there with Denver. That the roster was outside the quarterback position was so much better in Denver than Seattle. But I think there is this push by the excellent general manager of the Buffalo Bills. His name is Brandon Beane. So I think he's going all in, and I think their ability to even though they lost the amazing offensive coordinator Brian Daboll to become the new head coach of the New York Football Giants, so that they were able to keep Ken Dorsey, who is an excellent quarterbacks coach. He's now the new offensive coordinator in Buffalo, and then the defensive coordinator is still Leslie Frazier. There are a lot of talks. There was a lot of talk and chatter about Leslie Frazier becoming the head coach. He was actually one of the finalists to be the new head coach of the Chicago Bears. And Leslie Frazier was one of the star players from their championship team in 1985, considered by many to be one of the greatest teams ever assembled.
I believe Buffalo Bills and Bucks are going to make it. That's who should have made it. But the problem is that Tom Brady was like going in and out with this thing. There was too much. Coach didn't go unpredictable. And these players got sick. They were brutalized. But the coach, now that we have a team, he's going to help them. I see COVID improving a lot, especially with the boosters and everything. They got COVID and football. We do a search. There's many coaches and players that like between the two. It was just very unfortunate. When you look at it, the effects linger for months as well. Even the economists will tell you. The disaster when these things happen, the exasperation of gas prices is not just that also factor. So you have to transport these players and things like that. It's a lot. Public health implications. They're a little worried right now. PNAS reporting, there could be bad implications if we open stadiums to full capacity now. Maybe you should wait. COVID protocols are still in effect in some stadiums. They have to really care before opening up to full capacity, because that could also make a surge in COVID-19. Ticket sales have been down. Super people are had COVID as well. Even if the Super Bowl was full, there's risks that are carried. Especially with Delta and Omicron. That's also they gotta consider. Sponsors factors. Yeah, there's it says right here. Countries affected by the intervention or by events of similar nature should be excluded from the donor pool. Countries that have been suffering large idiopathic shocks to the prevention period should be excluded. The donor pool should be restricted to countries with terrorism similar to Canadian countries. In this case, we restrict our voter. We restrict our pool of countries from the same state to maintain some consistency in COVID-19 policy. Cases counts that cover an extended period of time to intervention required for the Canadian country and donor countries. So, I mean, there's a chart right here with the Bengals. Pathetic County with no state, no Pennsylvania, Hampton County, the chart that says, surgeons after Boom Day. They really got to be careful before opening it up to full people. Because COVID cases could definitely surge up, advertising as well, this is all affected. Here's Toledo, with COVID, gotta be careful with that. That also plays a factor in the, when you get that Super Bowl, the players are getting sick of the coaches, try to very Cloverfield, it's very uncertain and hard for football. I'm putting this up for people to consider that.
Yes. So I think that this has been appreciated, but I know we still have a lot of more topics to discuss on this podcast. So I definitely, because I know that Tim said at the open, David, that the Jacksonville Jaguars went on a huge, big time shopping spree. That they signed a bunch of players, including wide receivers Christian Kirk and Zay Jones. That they beefed up the defensive line for the Jaguars and all of that, but David, because you're an observer just like I am. So was this a good thing for the Jacksonville Jaguars being able to assemble all these players on large contracts?
I really don't know from the things. I don't think so. However, we do need to wait and see what happens on the football field, obviously. Because remember, they did hire Doug Peterson, who has been head coach before. So, we'll just have to wait and see, because remember, we don't really trust Jacksonville very much, let alone people we trust the Jacksonville Jaguars from the office to do the right thing.
Yeah, I think the Jaguars. I have a lot of things about the Jaguars. So, Christian Kirk was a wide receiver for the Arizona Cardinals last year. He was the number 3 receiver, so behind DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green, both veteran All-Pro receivers. But Christian Kirk signed an $84 million contract for 4 years to be Jacksonville's number 1 wide receiver, and that move makes absolutely no sense to me, because Christian Kirk, he's never been to a Pro Bowl, never had a 1,000-yard season in his brief NFL career. Yet he gets the big bucks with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and with all the moves that they made, David. This is proof that Trent Baalke. I remember after the whole Byron Leftwich, Adrian Wilson shenanigans that we went bonkers on Trent Baalke. But the fact that the Jaguars have this perception of them in relation to Trent Baalke and Shah Khan not being awake. This Jaguar spending spree is proof that Trent Baalke was more concerned about his job security than improving the Jacksonville Jaguars. Because remember, Trent Baalke, this is his 6th season as an NFL general manager. He had 3 with San Francisco, and then this is his 3rd with the Jaguars. And in 24, he was the one that ran the great Jim Harbaugh out of the building because of a screw up there. Then he brought in Jim Tom Sula, who was a disaster, and then Chip Kelly, he was a predictable flop there, and then the Doug Marrone was fired when he came over to Jacksonville in 2020. Remember the Urban Meyer shenanigans last year in 2021? That was a disaster, and then he brings in Doug Peterson in 2022, and listen, the Jaguars had a golden opportunity to completely reboot the franchise with Adrian Wilson, who was a well-respected executive across NFL circles. He states that I don't think he moved from his position in Arizona. And then they had one of the best play callers in the NFL available as a head coach, in Byron Leftwich, so who actually at one point was the starting quarterback for the Jaguars during the years where he was with David, the one before David Garrard, with Tom Coughlin as the head coach down there for many years, but. I think that this was all about Trent Baalke and his job security, and it's not going to pan out in the end because in a conference where there are 12 teams thinking about Championship Sunday, and there are 8-9 teams that really have a case in the AFC to go to the Super Bowl. I previously established I think Buffalo has the best opportunity to go to the Super Bowl among all of them, but the Jaguars are going to be a bottom 5 team in the NFL once again, given those things, and Doug Peterson is going to help in training camp. I think he's going to help. Doug Peterson being a former quarterback himself. So, but I don't trust Doug Peterson when it comes to the in-game managing. I don't trust Doug Peterson to make the important play calls for Trevor Lawrence, and I think it's going to be it's going to be another lost season for Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Those decisions that managers just makes me want to go, you know what?
Yeah.
Maybe perhaps I should try to be a general manager of a pro sports team. And maybe I might run my teams to win championships.
Because remember, I was foaming at the mouth for 4 or 5 years about those similar concepts with the Chicago Bears, with Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace, and how I biannually destroyed them on a basis on my podcast for being concerned about their job securities rather than actually making sure the team's better, with Ryan Pace desperately trading up to draft Mitchell Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, and them desperately trading up with the Giants to draft Justin Fields because they knew that they need a quarterback at 11, so they traded up with the Giants last year in the draft to get him. But I do think the Chicago Bears have had a solid off season. But even though the Bears did unload a huge contract dealing Khalil Mack to the LA Chargers. Now, the Chargers are a team we have not discussed one bit, and it's been over an hour. I think the Chargers are the 3rd or 4th best team in the AFC, because when you factor in Justin Herbert, when you factor in that offensive line, and them bringing in both him and Pro Bowl corner J.C. Jackson from the Patriots, who's been outstanding the last few seasons. I think he learned a lot from Stephon Gilmore in there as well. So. Yeah, and we're definitely gonna focus in on the draft on our next show in 4 weeks. So, but
and of course,
Yeah, and I will definitely go into touch on that on our next show. But I think the Bears are in a good place. I think a better coach who actually get his team buttoned up on an annual on a weekly basis, and Darius Leonard, the outstanding linebacker for the Indianapolis Colts, said in interviews concerning Matt Eberflus that Coach Eberflus makes practices harder than the game itself. So I think that's what prepares the Colts to win on gave the Colts a good chance to win there. But I think the Colts, the Bears are in a better position now that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are out of there. We still need to wonder that.
Could you guys look at the chart and tell me which draft pick is the best one to pick? Like, I'm just saying, what prediction? It's a prediction.
Yeah, we're gonna go again. We're gonna go deeper on this on the next show. But if I had to pick who's gonna be the number one overall pick, I remember the Jaguars are drafting number one, so they're not gonna be drafting a quarterback because they already have one in Trevor Lawrence. But I think the Jaguars are probably gonna draft Aiden Hutchinson with the first overall pick. Now there are some really strong talents that are there. But when you think of Ahmad Gardner from Cincinnati, Kyle Hamilton from Notre Dame, and Charles Cross, the outstanding right tackle from Ole Miss, so that there are definitely a lot of things, a lot of talented players and a lot of talented prospects. But Hutchinson right now would be my number one on that front, and but.
Also, I know about the Chargers. In the hour that we've been on air, we have not talked about the fact that we have another week where it's in my opinion, between the Chargers and the Raiders, duking it out to see who would get in full season and who will be spending more January football at home.
Yeah, I know. What wasn't that a weird playoff scenario that almost came to reality? Imagine if the Steelers missed the playoffs because the Chargers and Raiders they tied. That it would have been the most NFL thing to happen last year, and I was watching the game down the basement where I'm recording from right now. So that was one of the most insane regular season games I had seen. But Brandon Staley calling the timeout at the end of overtime, and it prompted Rich Bisaccia, who's now the special teams coordinator with the Packers. What a steal that was for there. To kick the game-winning field goal with Daniel Carlson. So it's in overtime. I still have pause. I know the Raiders, they got better. They landed Devontae Adams from the Packers, and I think that's going to be great. Derek Carr, Devontae Adams were teammates together at Fresno State before, and their combination was the reason why they were drafted in the second round of the NFL draft back in 2014. Derek Carr going to the Raiders, of course, and Devontae Adams lighting it up with Green Bay. But so with all those things being considered, though, I do think the Raiders are 4 of 4 in the division. I cannot put them over ahead of Kansas City because of Mahomes and now in the sudden splurge of draft capital that they got in the Tyreek Hill trade. So they're going to have a lot of leverage to trade up and draft for a wide receiver, which is certainly a team need. Now they did sign Marquez Valdez-Scantling, formerly of the Packers, to a 3-year contract today, but that's not going to be enough to replace Tyreek Hill, who was who is such a unique wide receiver.
Yes,
Because he was the fastest wide receiver in the National Football League, and now he goes to the Miami Dolphins. Mike McDaniel is the new head coach there. He's going to be a rock star there. So now they have him. They have a new running back duo of Matt Breida. Matt Breida went to the Giants.
He was awesome.
So but the Dolphins offseason has been terrific. So they had Raheem Mostert, who was one of the fastest players in the league as well. Chase Edmonds going over from Arizona to Miami is excellent, and then the Dolphins also signed Cedric Wilson, the former Dallas Cowboy. He's going to be the number 3 wide receiver, and David could attest to how much role he played and stepped up in the event of injuries. He made some big catches late in the season. But I think you factor in that, and of course Jalen Waddle was so fast out of college too. And they improved the offensive line by bringing in former Saints guard Terron Armstead, who's gonna be a big boost as well. So I think the Dolphins are clearly the second best team in the division behind Buffalo. And I think the Dolphins are certainly a team that you need to think about, David, as a team that could go to the playoffs in the AFC.
And not only that, I'm going to extend this further. And obviously, I'm going to say this as a whole prediction for obvious reasons, but I know I'm going to be very happy when I say this. The Miami Dolphins might be a sneaky team that could even win the AFC East if things fall away. I think the Dolphins is a playoff team, but by the same token, I don't know about the possibility that the Dolphins could win the AFC East this season.
That's certainly going to be a bold take because Josh Allen is an absolute stud, and the Bills defense was ranked number 1 last year in total defense, but I think something needs to be said. That as crazy of a start in the offseason as it was with the firing of Brian Flores, I never would have fired Brian Flores, but Brian Flores botched the quarterback situation. He was the one that insisted on Tua over Herbert. I vehemently disagree with that at the time, and that's a decision that him and Chris Greer are going to have to live with forever, taking Tua Tagovailoa over Justin Herbert. Now, we are going to know everything we need to know about Tua this upcoming season. Now, much improved wide receiver core, much improved running back, much improved offensive line. So all those things instantly got better within the course of a week, and so the Dolphins who did stockpile a lot of draft picks with over the years with the trades of Minkah Fitzpatrick and with the trade of Laremy Tunsil. Remember Laremy Tunsil got traded to the Texans because the Texans were so desperate for a left tackle, and the Texans gave up 2 first-round picks for a left tackle, and how horrendous that decision was by Billy O'Brien. Those draft picks directly led to the Dolphins drafting Jalen Waddle and trading for Tyreek Hill. So you could thank the clueless Texans for that, but I think Miami would certainly be a playoff team in my eyes if the season were to start today. And look, and think about this, David. And I think you're going to agree with me on this. If the Miami Dolphins were in the NFC, they would be a Super Bowl contender. Would you agree with that? With the way the NFC is and the way the AFC stands, right? If the Miami Dolphins were in the NFC, with the roster currently constructed, that they would be a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they were in the NFC, I would say that Championship Sunday would be the Buccaneers and the Miami Dolphins. And, I would probably do it if, knowing Tom Brady, I would still pick the Bucs.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah. It's most certainly. So so I do want to also talk about. I want to hear your takes about the Dallas Cowboys so far. So they traded Amari Cooper. They thought they had Randy Gregory signed in the bag before he bolted to Denver. They did not lose DeMarcus Lawrence, who signed a 3-year contract. So what would you say is your state of affairs right now after the Dallas Cowboys, David?
As you can tell by my reaction, Tom. What are we doing, Joe? Flying out.
I'm not a Cowboys fan, but if the Cowboys win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be mad. I would be happy for them. You know what I'm saying? So I hope they do, but they need to be improvements.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It seems like the Cowboys is regressing. They're not even trying to improve. They traded away Amari Cooper, as Flynn said.
Oh my God.
So, by trading away Amari Cooper and letting, among other things, Cedric Wilson walk away to the Miami Dolphins, my question mark to Jerry Jones is, how are you going to replace your two best wide receivers that you had last season? So far, I don't think Jerry Jones has answered the question.
Oh, if you get Zion Johnson from Boston College, might be good.
Not at a position of need, though. And David, this is another consequence of paying a second-string running back $15 million a season. And I knew at the time that they were going to botch the Ezekiel Elliott situation. I knew Jerry Jones was going to play right into the agent's hand, and then they botched the Dak contract situation, and then they gave Amari Cooper 5 years, $100 million. See, this is the thing about the Dallas Cowboys. So just when things go good, just when things seem to go good, but when it counts, when it matters the most, they never let you down.
Yeah.
How about them Cowboys, David? How about them Cowboys? The biggest accident waiting to happen in sports is the Dallas Cowboys, and this is why Tim McClellan calls me Stephen A. Flynn, because he knows I'm right. David knows I'm right about this. That it's always what can go wrong will go wrong. That's who the Cowboys are, and it never ceased to amaze me.
Yeah, and you wonder why I pull my hair out on the ball. Yeah.
They're getting James Washington as the running back.
Wide receiver, one year contract doesn't completely replace Amari Cooper, though.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I very much way that the whole NFC is going to be terrible.
$1 million.
NFC East, because I don't know how things are going to do. We know that the Patriots are probably going to be terrible again, And they're terrible.
Very high-headed because it says it right there, but it's a great team. The rest we couldn't say something better, maybe.
Flynn, help me out.
He's on $1 for 1 year contract.
Help me out on this one. Who's going to be the least terrible team in the NFC this season, in your opinion?
Listen, I think that there's certainly some questions about the Philadelphia Eagles about another year of Jalen Hurts, but I still think Dallas is going to win the NFC East, maybe because of the coaching and Dak Prescott still being available, and Dak did put up some okay numbers without Amari Cooper when Cooper was unavailable because of the knee injury he suffered during the middle of the season. But I still think if I was to pick right now, I would still pick Dallas to win the division. But I still wonder what the Philadelphia Eagles are going to do now. The Eagles did bring in another edge rusher in Hassan Reddick, who I think is one of the most underrated defensive linemen in the NFL, and Hassan Reddick going on the same defensive line as Derek Barnett and Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. That's going to be a nightmare front four for teams with bad offensive lines. So the Cowboys will certainly be tested by Philadelphia this season. So I think Philadelphia has an opportunity to compete for a wild card again, like they did last season. Mainly because they're strong up front, and the Eagles have 3 first-round picks because the trades of Carson Wentz and the trade Miami made to move up and draft Jalen Waddle at number 6 instead of number 12. So I think the Eagles are in a very good place to pounce. Now, Harry Roseman's drafts have to be better. That Harry Roseman will never be able to let go of the Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson situation. That Reagor went 21, Jefferson went 22. Jefferson became one of the best receivers in the league last season, pairing up well with Kirk Cousins. And speaking of Minnesota, I think Minnesota can win 11 or 12 games this season because I think because you have a weaker division and you have Kevin O'Connell, the new head coach of the Vikings. I think he's going to do well with Kirk Cousins. Now, I don't think it's going to translate to a Super Bowl run, but I think Minnesota can make the playoffs. I think Minnesota can win a playoff game. So I think Minnesota's a team to definitely watch out for in 2022. So I think there's going to be a lot of tabs now. But there will be a lot of questions though about Kirk Cousins, because Cousins did win a playoff game on the road against Sean Payton and Drew Brees and the Saints a couple of years ago, but I think the Vikings will as long as they're able to close out games on what they didn't do last year. I think Minnesota should be good in terms of making the playoffs in the NFC. So I think that's where things stand on.
I think the question mark about Kirk Cousins will be the only reason why I'm going to give the slight edge in the NFC North. That's where the division championship goes. Green Bay Packers.
It's because I can't pick against Rodgers in that division.
Yeah. They can't. Aaron Rodgers and the fact that, as you said, Flynn was a lot of touch with Kirk Cousins, even though the regime now in Minnesota is a whole lot different compared to the previous regime was by my standpoint.
So that definitely think that, but I think I will go back to the NFC East. Right now, I would rank a Dallas, Philly, Washington, and the Giants. Now, the Giants are a team that's obviously rebuilding, and I think that's what the idea is for Joe Shane and that front office. So, and this is where I think we would have been nice to have Natalie's take on this, because he is a fellow fan of the Giants like I am. But Joe Shane has quietly had a nice off season. That he brought in Mark Lewinsky to play right guard, and John Feliciano is probably going to be the starting center. Feliciano played under Brian Daboll last year in Buffalo, so Daboll is bringing some of his guys from Buffalo to play with the Giants in his first season as a head coach there. Now, so it's going to take some time for the Giants to get back to relevancy, and I think a lot of the Joe Shane, Brian Daboll goes back to the late 1970s when the Giants actually went outside the organization and hired George Young to be the new general manager of the Giants, and it directly led to the success in the 80s with the Giants. So I think it's going to be a similar boat here with Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, that they're doing this in a responsible manner. I think I definitely don't think Daniel Jones is going to be the starting quarterback for the Giants beyond the 2022 NFL season. So I think in that regard, I think that might open the way for the Giants to either draft a quarterback in 2023 or acquire one in free agency for intensive purposes. So I think the Giants are going to be in last place again in the NFC East this year. But they're a team that when the fan base finally has confidence in their new general manager and the new head coach, I think that the combination of Joe Shane and Brian Daboll is going to be a winning ticket here when you look at it for the New York Football Giants.
And especially long term, I think in the short term, I think especially this season. Let's see. What about last season? How many wins did the Giants have all season?
So they went 4-13 last year. So they started 4-7. Daniel Jones got hurt, and then Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm took over as the backup quarterbacks, and the Giants were terrible the rest of the year, and they were just horrendous the rest of the way, and just an unwatchable, unmitigated dumpster fire, which led to the firing of Joe Judge.
Yeah. I would say that the Giants will probably win in that case. I'll be honest enough for you, Flynn, and I'll say that the Giants will win 6 games.
I think 6 games is fair. I think 6 games is fair for the Giants. I think 7-8 wins is fair for Washington. If Wentz plays well, maybe I'll give them 9 wins in a week NFC East. But but the Giants are not ready to contend right now. But the Giants have a plan, and I know that because Joe Shane was my top choice to be the team's general manager, and Brian Daboll was my top choice to be the Giants head coach, and for the first time in forever, one of the teams I follow intently picks my top choice for both general manager and head coach. So I'm very happy about the Giants.
I'll say this one, especially for you, as well. The Giants here. Last 2026, 27, 2028. I think Giants will start being relevant again.
I think I'll be a little more optimistic and say 2025 or maybe as early as 2024 if the Giants can do a lot of maneuvering, because a lot of what the Giants offseason strategy was this season was to undo as much damage as possible that Dave Gettleman left behind. Well, the Giants and their fans went through hell for 4 years with Dave Gettleman. He was the total combination of arrogance and ignorance. Didn't know what he was doing. Didn't connect with the players. And all that, and along the way, he botched the salary cap situation. So the Giants have some dead cap money walking for the Giants. So I think 2022 is all about shedding as much salary caps. This way, when it comes to 2023, that'll enable Joe Shane and his team to spend responsibly, unlike teams like the Jaguars did this year. So, and I think the Jaguars' plan this year is going to blow up in their faces. But I think the Giants. Knowing that when they have a good general manager, when they have a good head coach, it usually translates to success. When you think of what the Giants had with George Young and Bill Parcells when they won 2 championships together in '86 and 1990, and then Ernie Accorsi and Jerry Reese constructed the 2 championship caliber teams, the 2 championship runs for Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin to win 2 there, so that's where the Giants have their 4 championships. I think it's going to be a similar case to what happened in 2000 in 1979. And I think it's going to be a similar case to what happened in 2003, as when it was the dawn of Eli Manning. So I think it's going to be another lost season, but I think the Giants are looking ahead to a brighter future here. I think we covered that. But there was one topic that I knew David really wanted to get into, and I know we promised before the show that we would get into that, but David, take it away.
Yes. Obviously with broadcast and other things, Al Michaels going to Amazon for with the new Thursday Night Football team here for Amazon. Now, Joe Biden, Troy Aikman going to Monday Night Football. And now there's wobbling going on at Fox Sports, which the NFL was built upon them way back in 1994. Reported on Hawaii that this is going to come off the board as the article that's shared today. I honestly think that that would be, first of all, I think we're not obvious that. For one line, the whole position is partially letting your top 2 announce duo that they have for 2 decades, almost as long as they add, as long as they add in some duo, blend the way to the end. So, I think people are crazy even thinking about wanting to have a conversation, but I don't know. We'll see about that.
Yeah. And with all these moves, how do you think CBS is feeling? Because they still have Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, that they still have the Nance Romo team. That they have I remember Charles Davis was in Fox before he left to pair with Iron Eagle as the number 2 team over at CBS, and now. So, and I think Fox has not done a good job keeping its best broadcasters now. So now there's certainly some good ones out there. Remember, Joe Buck did the World Series for 22 straight years on Fox. He also did the 96 and 98 World Series, which the Yankees won. So it looks like Kevin Burkhart's going to be the lead announcer for the NFL on Fox coverage, and Kevin Burkhart's been a gem, and I've known that for 15 years. So going back to his days working at SNY, being a field reporter for SNY for the New York Mets. So we've known that for a while, and it was a little nervous to start his NFL broadcasting career because he needed to get into the thick of things and knowing what the culture of the NFL is all about, but he's really blossomed into being an outstanding a broadcaster, and was paired up this past season with with former Carolina Panthers tight end Greg Olsen, who was excellent at his craft, and so Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen. I remember Fox has 2 of the next 3 Super Bowls. They have Super Bowl 57 in Arizona next year, and then they have Super Bowl 59 in 3 years from now at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. The one in between Super Bowl 58 is going to be in Vegas. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun there. And also, I don't know if you caught this, Irene, in your announcement. Did you overlook that the NFL draft is going to be in Kansas City next year?
Yeah, I'm excited about
Kansas City is going to be never would have thought Kansas City, but I think but I think when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback, I think that would enable the NFL to think about Kansas City as the as a place for the draft. So I'm happy for that, and so I definitely think about that. But
By the way, Irene, since the draft is going to be in Kansas City, road trip up there.
I know David would because he lives in.
I heard the Super Bowl this upcoming week going to happen in Arizona.
Yeah, it is. That was a decision they came up with a few years ago.
Yeah. Because like Flynn was going to say, I'm not that far from Kansas City, so.
Yeah. And David, I remember you bringing up Tampa Denver as a Super Bowl. Do you know what that would be? That would be a rematch of Tom Brady and Russell Wilson in the Super Bowl, and the last Super Bowl to take place in Arizona.
Yes.
I mean, this is why I cover the NFL more than any other sport, because there's so much to talk about, and with Tom Brady, that he has some intriguing quarterback matchups next season. I know Tampa is scheduled to play Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. I think that would be a good primetime matchup. With he's scheduled to play Lamar Jackson, the Baltimore Ravens. There's going to be a rematch of the Super Bowl from a couple years ago with the Chiefs. The Chiefs and the Bucs will be playing again in Tampa for the 3rd time in the last 3 years. You have regular season 2020, the Super Bowl, which was held in Tampa in 2021, and then based on how Tampa and Kansas City finished in the standings, so that the 17th game is the same place game between the team and a select team from another first place team from another conference. So this year it's the Buccaneers are playing the first place team in the AFC West because of the schedule, and that team happens to be the Kansas City Chiefs. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So Brady Mahomes would be great. Tom Brady, Josh Allen in the Super Bowl would be amazing. Russell Wilson and Tom Brady in the Super Bowl would be all sorts of fun and excitement, because you know how high I'm going to be on this season on Buffalo, Denver, Tampa, maybe the Rams if Trey Lance breaks out with San Francisco this season. So I think that's that. Also, how about the Rams bringing in Allen Robinson over from the Bears? I think that's a fantastic signing. On that front, let's see if the Raiders upgrade a corner by trading for Rock Ya-Sin for the Indianapolis Colts right after they signed Chandler Jones. I like this move a lot. So we covered that. I think I believe we covered everything I think we needed to cover in terms of all so much has happened in the NFL over the last 3 weeks. So it's not even funny how much there was over there. So yeah, and so I definitely think that would be a good place for us to wind down over there. So, So I think it's a good place for us to sign off. So for David Heller, for Irene, this is John Flynn. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and we'll be doing a podcast, but before the draft. I believe it's going to be on April 21st at 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll be covering as many NFL draft related topics as possible. We'll be talking about the Giants and their 2 first-round picks. We'll be talking about what if the Pittsburgh Steelers should draft a quarterback, or what the Jets should do with they have 2 first-round picks. Will the Philadelphia Eagles replenish positions of need? So those are the questions I definitely think we're going to be answered, and any other developments that come out in the NFL over the next 4 weeks, we'll definitely discuss. Leading up to the draft. So until next time, this is John Flynn saying so long, everybody, and we'll be back here with Fantasy Football Fever in 4 weeks. Have a wonderful week. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend, and we'll see you next month. So long, everybody. Take it away, Irene.
15 seconds to air. Stand by, all cameras.
Ready with slow motion and isolated cameras.
Stand by, videotape, and roll tape.
And tape is rolling in less than 5, in 3, 2, 1.
Take tape.